Hi, in this video we will continue with our study of natural language processing. In our previous lectures we have been mainly using context-free grammars to derive sentences or to study the structure of sentences, but we have also seen some examples in which we get sentences that may not have common meaning in the language. Like, for example, we can get sentences like the man bites the dog, which may be possible, but is not what really that happens. I mean, it's usually the dog the one that bites, and not the man that bites the dog, for example. Then in that case, that sentence is okay with the context-free grammar, but that's the point. There is not an analysis about the context. Now, if we go into context-sensitive, and then we identify, okay, that the dog is the one that bites, and it may be able to bite another dog or a man or a human, then we are now using additional information from the context, and that will give us a better way of manipulating the language. Now, one of the other examples that we got is like when we derive sentences that maybe didn't have a subject-verb agreement, and that wasn't, again, because there wasn't anything considered in the context. Now, this first implementation in Prolog is a modification of the grammar that we were using before, in which we're using some information from the context. So that in this case, this is now we're talking about a context-sensitive grammar. So let's see the idea of this algorithm. So in this case, this this context-sensitive grammar will look into combinations of in which we're going to have an associated singular noun with a singular verb, and in this case we will try to enforce subject-verb agreement. So this is just a small modification that will help us to understand that now not only using the grammar, but we're also going and check something about the context. So we look into the way that we're generating the sentence. So this is the way that we start. So we got a sentence, and we're going to be parsing again and following a grammar. So in this case, sentence is again compounded by two segments: noun phrase and verb phrase. Now, if we want, just one more time, if we want to make this grammar a little more complex, then we need to insert here another possible definition of sentence. So this is just for illustration. So in this case, sentences in this small language is by the noun phrase and the verb phrase, and we studied that before. So in this case, we need to find the segment that corresponds to the noun phrase and to the verb phrase, and that's how we do it with the start and the end. So we had that discussion before. So we're looking for a partition, and in which this will be the noun phrase that comes from that sentence and the verb phrase, and then that will be okay. Now we're adding something that we did not have before, which is number, and in this case the number will be singular and plural. Before I continue with this, let's see what is it that we're expecting to accomplish with this. So this is how we start. We're providing the sentence, and let's go and look over here. So this, for example, is a possibility of a sentence that says the man liked the dog, and then it says yes, which means this is a well-formed sentence in this language. Look at how here the man likes the dog returns no, because there isn't an agreement between man and likes, because this is plural, and this will be the one that is going to be used for singular. So it doesn't have an agreement. In our previous the implementations, in which we just were using a context-free grammar, this will be okay. This will say yes, right? So for that, look at that here in the terminals for the grammar. We're adding additional information, like for articles, which one are the ones that are going to be used for singular and plural. The same for noun and verbs. Then let's see another possibility. So other possibilities of the potential of being using this, like here are we providing this fragment, and then it can tell me what maybe the other possibilities that complete the sentence, or what will be a valid sentence in the language, right? Then let's go back again here. So now when we have the fragment, we're gonna have this, that number and number, this uppercase, define that this is a variable, and in this case they need to match. That means they need to be the same. That means if this is a singular, this has to be a singular, which means that if I'm providing a sentence and then I get that fragment and then identify that this matches singular, the other fragment in the sentence, which is the verb phrase, also needs to match this. Okay, so let's see here. So here is something that we have before, in which we are basically parsing. Now there are two definitions for noun phrase, and then one in which it has a noun, and then when it has a noun, it matches the noun. Look at that, we are extracting the number, and then this is how we're going to have the number that later needs to match the verb phrase. Or the other definition of noun phrase is that we have a noun, an article, and a noun, and then again for each one we're getting the number which represents singular or plural. Now similarly, we're doing the same on verb phrase, but verb phrase has two definitions, which is just a verb, and in this case it needs to match. So here we're matching the noun phrase with the verb, or the verb with the verb and noun phrase. Look at that, number is not being passed here, because then the second noun phrase will have to be in agreement with the initial noun phrase from the sentence. Like for example, let's suppose that says here, the men like, and then here we may have a phrase that says these dogs. So this is plural and this is singular. So this plural doesn't have to be in agreement with this one that is singular. So that's why here we have that underscore. So the agreement is on the noun phrase and the verb for the next section. So that's what we have here. So if we want something else, of course we have to modify. And now how is that then these two will be also in agreement? They will be in agreement because the noun phrase, when we call noun phrase, and we have an article and a noun, look at that, here it will be number and number. So this will also says that they have to be in agreement, that whatever is the value of this needs to match this value over here, even though here may be an underscore. So we have a value here to match that from the verb phrase, but on here we don't need it. So that will be the implementation of this context sensitive grammar. So this is a great illustration of now going into the context.